Welcome, everyone, to The Time Is Now, the podcast where we have honest, meaningful conversations about the choices that shape our lives. I'm your host, Jack, and today we're diving into a topic that touches every single one of us, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you do for a living, no matter how old or young you might be. We're talking about time, specifically the habit of wasting it, and why that habit might be the single most dangerous thing holding you back from the life you truly want. Joining me today is someone I deeply admire, a writer, a life coach, and a person who has dedicated years to studying human productivity and purpose. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Jack, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while because, honestly, this is a subject that I feel is not discussed nearly enough. We talk about money, we talk about health, we talk about relationships, but we rarely sit down and have a real, uncomfortable conversation about how we spend our time and what that truly costs us.
Exactly. And I think the reason it's uncomfortable is because most of us, if we're being honest, know deep down that we're not using our time as well as we could be. There's always that nagging feeling at the end of the day, that sense of where did the hours go? So let's start from the very beginning. Sarah, why is time such a precious, irreplaceable resource?
The reason time is unlike any other resource is simple. You can never get it back. Think about money for a moment. If you lose $100, you can earn it again. If you lose your phone, you can buy a new one. If you lose a friendship, there's even a chance to rebuild it. But if you lose an hour, a day, a year, that is gone forever. The person you were during that time will never exist again. The opportunities that existed in that window will never return in exactly the same form. And that is a reality that should genuinely shake us. But somehow, most people live their entire lives without ever truly confronting it. That's such a powerful way to frame it. And yet I look around, I look at my own life sometimes, and I see how easily we fall into patterns of distraction. We scroll through social media for hours without even deciding to. We say yes to obligations that don't align with our goals. We postpone the important things and convince ourselves that tomorrow will be better, that we'll be more ready, that the timing will be more right. Why do you think human beings are so naturally prone to wasting time, even when we know better? That is such a great question, and the honest answer is that our brains are not wired for long-term thinking. We evolved to respond to immediate rewards, immediate threats, immediate pleasure. The part of our brain that craves the instant dopamine hit from a notification or a funny video is much older and much more powerful than the part that says you should be working on your goals right now. This is not a character flaw, it's biology. But the key word there is evolved. We have the capacity to override those instincts. We have the ability to reflect, to plan, to choose deliberately. The question is whether we develop that capacity or let it stay dormant. So it's almost like we have to consciously train ourselves to value time in a way that our instincts don't automatically support. Precisely. And the people who do that, the people who genuinely understand what time means and treat it accordingly, they are the ones who consistently build the lives they actually want. It's not about intelligence. It's not about luck or privilege. It's about a deep internalized respect for the fact that every hour is a choice, and every choice has consequences that ripple forward into your future.
Let's talk about the real cost here, because I think sometimes people hear "don't waste time" and they think it's just motivational advice, something nice to put on a poster. But there are actual, tangible consequences to chronic time wasting, aren't there? Things that show up in people's lives years down the line.
Absolutely, and I want to be very clear about this because it matters. The cost of wasted time is not just abstract. It shows up in deeply concrete ways. It shows up as the career you never built because you spent your evenings on entertainment instead of on skill development. It shows up as the business idea you never launched because you spent your weekends on comfort instead of creation. It shows up as the health you lost because you postponed exercise and good nutrition until later. It shows up as the relationships that slowly died because you never invested the time to nurture them. And perhaps most painfully, it shows up as regret, the heavy, suffocating weight of looking back at your life and realizing that you had more potential, more opportunity, more capacity than you ever chose to use.
That word regret is so loaded. I've spoken to a lot of older people over the years, people in their 70s, 80s, even older, and the common theme is almost never, "I wish I had watched more television." It's almost always about the things they didn't do, the risks they didn't take, the time they didn't invest in what truly mattered.
And that is one of the most heartbreaking findings in all of psychology and hospice research. Bronnie Ware, an Australian nurse who spent years working with people in the final weeks of their lives, documented the most common regrets of the dying. At the top of the list, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And when you really examine that regret, underneath it is always the question of time. Time spent on things that didn't truly matter to you. Time not spent on the things that did. That's the ultimate cost.
That really does put it in perspective. It's not just about productivity in some corporate sense. This is about the fundamental question of whether you lived your actual life or whether you let it slip through your fingers.
Exactly. And I want to make sure we don't leave this conversation in the abstract, because I know how easy it is to feel inspired in the moment and then go right back to old habits. So let me share some concrete practices that genuinely work. The first is what I call the time audit. For 1 week, just 7 days, track how you actually spend your time. Not how you think you spend it, not how you intend to spend it, how you actually spend it in real time, in real life. Most people are shocked by this exercise. They discover they're spending 15 hours a week on social media when they thought it was 2. They discover they're investing almost no time in their most important goals when they believed they were making progress. The audit creates clarity, and clarity is the foundation of change.
The gap between what we think we're doing and what we're actually doing can be enormous. I did something like this a few years ago, and it was genuinely humbling. What's the second practice?
The second is what I call intentional morning architecture. How you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you wake up and immediately reach for your phone, checking notifications, scrolling feeds, reacting to other people's agendas before you've even established your own, you have already surrendered the most creative, focused hours of your day to noise. Instead, design the first 60 to 90 minutes of your morning around your most important goals. This could be reading, writing, exercising, meditating, working on a project you care about, whatever moves the needle on the life you're trying to build. Guard that time fiercely, because no one else will guard it for you.
That resonates so deeply. There's something almost sacred about those early morning hours before the world starts pulling at you from every direction. What else?
The third practice is learning the discipline of saying no, and saying it without guilt. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values and your goals, you are implicitly saying no to something that does. Your time is finite. Your attention is finite. The people and projects and activities that fill your calendar define your life, whether you consciously choose them or not. So start being ruthless about where your yes goes. Say no to the commitments that drain you without building you. Say no to the social obligations that don't genuinely enrich you. Say no to the distractions that promise pleasure but deliver emptiness. And use every no you give as a gift of time and energy redirected toward what actually matters to you.
I love that reframe. Saying no as a gift to yourself. Because I think a lot of people feel guilty about protecting their time, as if they're being selfish. But you're essentially saying that being selective is an act of integrity.
That is a powerful note to close on. Sarah, before we wrap up, I want to give you the floor for a final message, something you'd want every listener to carry with them after this conversation ends.
I would say this. Time is the one thing that is distributed perfectly equally among all human beings. The billionaire and the student, the young and the old, the powerful and the powerless. We all get 24 hours every single day. What we do with those hours is the fundamental act of authorship in our lives. Nobody is coming to save your time for you. Nobody is going to show up and rearrange your days so that they align with your deepest values and highest ambitions. That responsibility belongs entirely to you. And that is not a burden. That is one of the most extraordinary gifts of being human. The power to choose, the power to build, the power to become. Every moment you are alive, you have that power. Please, please don't spend it on things that don't deserve it. The world needs what you are capable of creating when you take your time seriously.
Sarah, that was absolutely beautiful. And I genuinely believe every person listening to this today needed to hear it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for your honesty, for your wisdom, and for the generosity with which you share. To our listeners, if this episode moved you even a little, I encourage you to do one thing today, just one, that honors the time you have. Share this episode with someone who needs it. And we'll see you next week on The Time Is Now. Take care of yourselves and take care of your time.
Thank you, Jack. It was a true honor.